What's up, Buttercups? Welcome to the show. Apologies coming a little late today, as per usual. Had a kid go to a dentist yesterday, and basically, once the kid's out of school, it's all over. You're not getting anything done, but we're here. So, welcome to the show. I'm, of course, your beautiful host, Brian McWilliams, and today we're going to run through a few different topics. It's primarily centered around bombs. The bombing of Yemen Houthis, the bomb of Snow White in the box office, the bomb of Robert De Niro's career and death of his career, and Alto Nights, the Alto Nights. Bet you didn't even know that was a film that came out. Well, we're going to talk about it. And also the bombing of the DNC in Total and bombing of Tesla factories and Tesla dealerships, let's say, and the vandalization of cars. It's a bomb-centric episode. And if you love truth bombs, if you love, just seeing my beautiful face bombing your screen, you can, of course, always subscribe. Go hit that notify button because we are shadow banned. And if you want some more, go to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty or lionsofliberty.locals.com. And by the way, we're going to have a huge announcement. Maybe a little somebody joining the show. It's going to be, I think, a Who Shot Mr. Burns scenario of who's going to be joining the Lions of Liberty. But big news is coming around the corner very soon. Anyway, let's get to it because I've got a meeting in about 45 minutes. So this episode will not be longer than that. Let's start off with the situation with Signalgate, as some people are calling it, because it's fun to add gates to the end of things. Except Bill Gates. We don't want any more gates coming out of him. No more prodigies. I don't want him to ever have sex again. I don't want him to really breathe oxygen anymore. But that's neither here nor there. So Pete Hegseth, I don't know if he started this signal text chain. I don't know if Tulsi started it. I don't know if, what is his name? Matt Waltz, the guy who added in the head editor at The Atlantic. What's his name? Not Jonah Goldberg. He's a different guy. You guys are all over this story because it's almost impossible to ignore at this point. Jeffrey Goldberg, not Jonah Goldberg. Jonah Goldberg's, I think, the National Review. So this entire thing with the Signal chat is interesting for a couple of different reasons. Number one, it had J.D. Vance on it, the heads, all these security advisors, yada, yada. They're talking about what to do about this Yemen situation and the Houthi rebels, who, of course, are messing up shipping lanes going across, and again, across the world from us, but apparently shipping containers that do have American interests involved. Now, what's funny is, maybe before I get into that, I was chuckling to myself because we're at this crux moment, right, where Trump is saying, hey, Europe, pay for your own defense, which is going to include, expanding to all our allies that we've been funding through NATO, all these different factions that we've been supporting. Well, when it comes to Yemen and shipping lanes, I'm guessing that probably we have quite a bit of involvement there, either financially or now militaristically. But it's interesting because Trump's pulling back funding for NATO. The European countries are now faced with this dilemma because Europeans have been taking for granted for decades the fact that they get just all these wonderful social benefits. Oh my God, we've got education and healthcare. Oh, we've got perks and bonuses galore. Well, that's because you assholes aren't paying for your defense. We are paying for it. American taxpayers are paying for it, whether that is by straight taxation, whether that's by inflation and fiat currency manipulation, you name it, we're getting it right up the ass. So now Europeans are going, well, how are we going to solve this? How will we solve this problem? Well, they've got the option of either racking up debt, which is the American solution to this, to funding the world empire and defense, or they're going to have to cut social programs. So they're in quite the bind, which is pretty funny. And I was just laughing to myself because apparently, we can pull back the money from NATO, which I'm happy about. We should leave NATO completely. But I'm laughing that, well, all these Europeans are getting services for free. Well, here, Yemen, you got some bombs for free as well. We'll come back to that. But at the same time, I also saw a story that not only is this in, the NATO countries over in Europe, but apparently Australians are freaking out because we've also been backboning the Australian university system. How? Why? You got it. Let me know, because I can't figure out why the fuck we'd be doing that. But apparently now, several Australian universities are in dire financial straits because American taxpayer dollars are not supporting them. Ridiculous. freaking ridiculous. It's amazing how much the American taxpayer has been footing the bill for the largesse, the privilege, all this socialistic nonsense that we're told is so beautiful and wonderful in other countries, and how, this is a human right. Well, it's a human right based off our backs and our labor. So remember that. So good job on exposing that, Trump administration. Anyway, getting back to these Houthis. So this whole Signal chat thing's interesting. Number one, they're saying it's a violation of the Espionage Act because obviously you're bringing in this reporter and it's not going through official channels for classified information. All right, I get that. I'm also not naive enough to think that, look at the Hillary Clinton stuff, to pretend that these people working in militaristic operations, working with classified details, are going to go through official channels for everything and anything really is absurdly stupid. They're using this as a convenience. Signal is a convenient method for chatting without having to jump on a, secured phone line, which is probably still a better idea. You can get interactions back and forth. You can catch up on it later. It is very convenient. And honestly, what an endorsement for Signal. If you've got the highest level of the government planning military attacks on your encrypted program, encrypted app, pretty good. Good job, Signal. You can't get better PR than that. I will tell you as a professional in this space, you cannot get better PR than the U.S. government using your encrypted app to plan attacks on the Houthi rebels over in Yemen. But I'm not naive to think that they're going to go through the channels. Look, guys, I hate to break it to you, but what they did before was they met in a room and they talked about this shit, or they got on the phone. You're still not going to see it. So this is, I'd say, non-surprising that it's going through unofficial challenge, but at the same time, you think about if you're in a room with other people, or if you're on a phone call, I guess you could add in someone's cell phone by accident, but this kind of fuck up is not going to happen that easily. And honestly, part of me questions whether or not this is an unintentional thing, whether this was an intentional thing by somebody. Again, this guy, Matt Walls. If it is, I can't remember if it's Waltz or Walls. It would be funny if it was somehow a relation to Tim Walls, and the retardation runs deep in that clan. But it's hard for me to believe that this Jeffrey Goldberg, the head Atlantaner of the ultra left-wing Atlantic, somehow just magically gets added on here by accident. It doesn't make a ton of sense. I don't know what the benefit would be other than to say, well, this is a military operation that really is not going to be that serious to our real national security, which is true. It's against across the world. In Yemen, an area which we've already taken quite a large part in completely destroying, what with our backing of the Saudi war there. But if you say, okay, we wanted the Trump administration to look bad, maybe this guy hates Pete Hegseth, I don't know. To add this guy in, okay, it's a fairly low-level security breach that's going to make the Trump administration look like shit, so why don't we go for it? Get Goldberg in here. It doesn't, to me, that's the only rational way this makes any sense. I guess government, they're just like us, idiots. I made this point before. I referenced Rick and Morty back when that show was actually good, where they had a fantastic episode wherein all the Ricks, which is the smartest man in the universe in this cartoon show, if you're not familiar with it, he's a super scientist. They have the citadel of Ricks, where everybody's a Rick, which means everybody's super intelligent. Yet, they still have complete government fuck-ups. They still have people doing shit jobs. They still have the idiots. They still have the elites. They still have all these things. And guess what? Their government fails. It's corrupt and it falls apart. And it makes the point, unintentionally or intentionally, the government is just like everything else. It doesn't matter who you get in there. It's going to always have incentives. It's always going to have fuck-ups. And also, your government is made up of morons like you. The vast predominance of the government is made up of morons like you. So, of course, these people are going to fuck up and add somebody. Christ, I've texted people the shit that I'm talking about them to their number before and then had to play it off like it was a joke. These things happen. But I guess the only bright side to come out of this, other than, exposing that we're having fist bumps and American flag flames celebrating the deaths of these Houthi terrorists, quote-unquote terrorists, and to no one's surprise, yeah, of course they're going to do that. Hillary Clinton famously, right, for Gaddafi, we came, we saw, he died, and does a witch cackle. These people are not like you and I. They are going to celebrate this. And look, if that's your job, I can get it. It's like if you complete all your TPS reports in the office, I guess you're going to fist bump. But at least we know that J.D. Vance had some pause when he says, I don't know if we should be getting in there. I don't know if we should be bombing in. Eventually went along with it anyway, but I took that as a little bit of a silver lining. He can be pushed around, but at least there was some vocalization of opposition. In the interim, is this a massive deal like the leftists are trying to make out? Again, not really. It's, there's been leaks before. There'll be leaks again. It's human nature. It's human fallibility. It's a whatever moment. I could really give two shits other than the fact that we're once again taking part in an arena of war. I do understand it in the way that, we're trying to protect commercial shipping. They're attacking civilian transport or commercial transports. I get taking military action here a lot more than I get taking military action in Ukraine. So, it makes a lot more sense to me that they're protecting these interests rather than getting in a full-fledged proxy war with another superpower, nuclear armed superpower. But I digress. We'll see what happens, by the way, with Russia-Ukraine. I was going to talk a little bit about that today, but I want to see what actually shakes out other than these preliminary talks and ceasefires. And okay, we're going to work not to have containers, shipping containers attacked in the Black Sea, yada, yada. But we'll see what shakes out. Okay, let's get back around to the point about this Snow White, De Niro, the DNC. So all these things to me are connected, right? You've got these assholes that are out there on the ultra left that are celebrities that are outspoken, like Robert De Niro. Now, Robert De Niro, as I mentioned, you probably don't know this, but he had a movie come out from the writer of Goodfellas. I think his name's Nick Pigletti, something like that. Now, if you told a younger Brian McWilliams, if you told me 15 years ago, wow, there's a new De Niro movie coming out from the writer of the Goodfellas, or writer of Goodfellas, it's like the Ukraine in Ukraine, the writer of Goodfellas, I would have been like, oh my God, awesome. I'm super pumped to see this movie. Can't wait to do it. That's fantastic. I've waited for this. Wow, Goodfellas is one of my favorite films. The movie, let me check the most recent box office report. Let me see. The Alto Nights box office. Let's look it up right now. Whoop. So it made something, I think, like 7 million. Let me see. Of course, can't find it. Well, let's just say it's 7 million. This movie came out, widely distributed, but didn't have a lot of promotion behind it. Bizarre, right? Wonder why? Well, I can tell you why. It's because Robert De Niro's career is dead. Rest in peace, your career's dead, Bobby De Niro. Being an unhinged leftist lunatic, going out there at every possible chance and raging and railing about Donald Trump and how that's a threat. It's a threat to democracy. Just being a fucking unbelievably obnoxious turd at all times, driving away the majority of rational human beings. I mean, let alone Republicans, but people like me. I don't want to see his face anymore. It's now so uniquely tied to his being so unhinged, ridiculously progressive that I have a hard time watching any of his old films now. Like, he has destroyed himself for me. And you're seeing that play out in the box office. This is a movie that should not have failed commercially, even though it's not getting great reviews. It should not have failed commercially because of what it is, because of it's a gangster film where apparently De Niro plays two characters, which is stupid at his advanced age and lack of talent. I mean, let's not be honest. De Niro, fine, but he plays one character, and that one character is mostly Robert De Niro. The only time I saw him play anything other than Robert De Niro was in Awakenings, which is a touching movie. Nobody wanted to see this film, because nobody wants to see Robert De Niro anymore. Similarly, Snow White, which is going to go down as one of the worst box office flops in the history of filmmaking, a $270 million budget, plus about $100 to $130 million in promotion. So you're talking about $400 million. It just dropped a fat shit at the box office at opening weekend, raking in $87 million worldwide. One of the worst box office openings for a Disney film ever. Is like $43 million domestically. So this film stars a chick called Rachel Zegler. Now you probably know about already because I've talked about it on the show before. She is a Latina actress. So Snow White, who you'll remember from the classic fairy tale, her skin was white as snow. They still called the film Snow White, but apparently now she's Snow White because she got lost in a blizzard. Yes, that's really what they did. So this movie already comes out. You already know that they're virtue signaling. They're changing the plot. They're changing the entire premise of Snow White to fit a woke agenda and the message. So not only do they change Snow White to this actress, Rachel Zegler, who I'll come back to because she is the primary reason this film has failed. They also don't have dwarves in it, right? And at first, pictures leaked out of these people called the Bandits, which was like the United Colors of Benetton and trans Benetton. You know, there's like a man or a woman with a beard and a little black dude and a tall whatever. You know, it's like everything that they could work in there for quote unquote diversity was in there. And people were like, are these the new dwarves? So there was already outrage. Then Disney went, no, those aren't the dwarves. Those aren't we have got the dwarves. Although it's not called Snow White and the Seven Dwarves because, and I was raging about this on Twitter because it's so fucking stupid, because to put dwarves in there would apparently be violating the new woke word censorship, the new woke proper, whatever you want to do, where you can't violate these terms. Because dwarves, even though dwarf is not supposed to be a prerogative term, dwarf you can't say anymore. You definitely can't say midget, but you're also not allowed to say dwarf. And Peter Dinklage, who I didn't realize was a moron until he came out against this, Peter Dinklage came out and said that somehow making Snow White was regressive. Now, Snow White is not a story which makes fun of dwarves or little people in any way. If anything, the dwarves are kind-hearted heroes. Then they're not also, let's be very clear about this. This is what really pissed me off. They're also not supposed to be little humans that have some, pituitary problem. They are, in fact, dwarves, because this is a fairy tale, and dwarves were around as described as these mythical creatures, lived in mines and were very good at crafting, right? This is mythology, not genetics. Yet dipshits like Peter Dinklage are out here going, well, we can't say dwarves and you can't cast dwarves because that's abusive and derogatory. No, it's fucking not, dumbass. These are mythical creatures versus genealogical traits. You can have these little people in the movie. And in fact, they would love to be in the movie. I mean, Christ, if you're a little person, you've got 7 roles now, which you're probably going to be paid a substantial amount of money for. This is a major Disney production. You're talking what? $100,000 at least? So you don't have to work for a year as a little person because you've now been cast in this movie and now you're getting residuals to the tune of whatever, $25,000 a year for the rest of your life out of this. Wonderful. Sign me up. If they ever want to make a movie about annoying, loud, bald people, sign me the fuck up. I will not be offended. You don't need to use CGI, which is what these assholes did in this film. I don't need a CGI bald Brian running around, yelling at people and stammering. I will do it myself. Sign me the fuck up. I'll be Slender Man. I don't know. Whatever it turns out to be, I'm in. But these dumb shits go out of their way to make it the wokest possible. And not only this, and I've read this from a BBC article reviewing the film, said that this film needs to figure out what it's trying to be. Because one producer said, you know what, we should make a faithful adaptation to the original. And then another producer said, you know what we should do? We should actually make it into a rallying cry for Marxism. And that's what I've seen from a lot of the clips and a lot of the reviews and a lot of the trailers, that this is a fucking Trojan horse for Marxism, as with everything that these assholes in Hollywood have made for the last 10 years, until they've now started to wake up, I should say. Woke up, Freudian slip. Because Snow White, instead of fighting against the queen and, the prince saving her, well, there's no prince, right? Because that's regressive. We can't have a woman be saved by a prince anymore. And Rachel Zegler went out and talked about that at length, ad nauseum, so would say. But they also put in all this language about, the fairest of them all. Well, that means that all the people in the land have to be treated fairly, and that the bounty of the land is shared by all, and yada, yada, yada. Oh, my God. Well, let's put the value of labor in here, right? This movie was woke trash. People sniffed it out. And then after sniffing out the basic building blocks of this Marxist garbage that Disney's trying to push out there at the tail end of their The Message phase, Rachel Zegler is out there talking shit about the original, talking shit about the, men, talking all this shit about Trump and Trump supporters, telling them, I don't need your business. To the point where Disney, this story just came out today, Disney had to hire a social media person to basically be like, all your posts go through me. Look at me. I am your social media now. All your social media posts got to go through this person. They hire her bodyguard because now she's getting death threats, which, by the way, don't threaten people's lives. Please, guys, don't be stupid. And now Disney cancels the premiere of this film, cancels all the promotional appearances, and also behind the scenes, Rachel Zegler is pro-Palestine. Gal Gadot is a huge Zionist, so she's pro-Israel, so they hate each other. They don't want to do appearances. But Rachel Zegler is just doubling, tripling down on hatred, on leftist lunacy towards 50% or 51% of her audience. Those people aren't going to go see this film. Now, this is all tying in on a broader contextual scale. The bomb of this movie, the bomb of De Niro's film, and the bombing of Tesla dealerships here to the ultimate failure of the DNC. The DNC is polling at 27%. Right, of favorability, and only 7% of people saying like this is like a large poll. There are two polls. The higher one was 27%. The lower one I think was 24% approval rating, saying that they approve of what they're doing, and only 7% said that they think the party's going in the right direction. They are getting a repudiation in such quick succession. I mean, I didn't think you were going to see the demise of the DNC this fast. Now, there's a great blog called Armstrong Economics where Martin Armstrong has a great, and shout out to Carl, one of our supporters for turning me on to that. But he's got a computer model that's really, really accurate. And it is basically forecasting that by, I think, 2030 or 2034, the Democratic Party will completely be defunct, split into and thrown into the wind. You're seeing it play out. Not only do they run one of the most unlikable, idiotically out-of-touch candidates in Kamala Harris, but apparently all their polling was off. They don't know what they're doing. They have zero roster to put in there. I mean, who are they going to put up? AOC? Because that's who they're propping up now. That's who the legacy media, the course bought and paid for Democratic shill legacy media, is pretending is going to be the savior for the Democratic Party. She's out there stumping with Bernie Sanders, these dumb fucks going around yelling about oligarchs, right? And by the way, if you use the phrase oligarchy, you are an idiot. You'd never heard it before Bernie Sanders said it, before it got echoed by mainstream media, and you now are only saying it because you are a brainwashed loser. Just know that for a fact. So Bernie's out there, on the please give me more money tour because he says he's not running for president again next time around. And he's 84. He shouldn't. But of course, we already knew that. Bernie Sanders was never going to be running for president. He's just out there trying to make money, trying to get his last hurrah in. And AOC's out there with him, adding nothing of substance to the conversation, being economically illiterate for all intents and purposes. She is embodying everything that was already smacked down during the last cycle. Her bullshit, her yelling and making people feel bad and talking about, all these woke things and jumping on every bandwagon issue like trans and patriarchy and DEI, you name it, she's on it with her. And she is a fucking Marxist. She embodies everything America hates now, has made clear we don't want this anymore. She is Snow White. She is Snow White out there. And everybody in America is going, we don't want it. Take it back. But yet the legacy media is propping her up. This is a death spiral. And they're just making it go faster and faster. It's like quicksand. The harder these people are fighting in their current state, and they are fighting hard to maintain, they don't get it. I mean, I talked about this before. They don't get it. That you can't keep doing the same shit. They keep tripling, quadrupling down because remember, guys, the DNC, it's never them. It's always you. You're the idiot. You're the one that's not with it. You're the one that's got to change your mind because they are the only people that know what's right to do. They have the moral high ground, except they don't. They've lost it all. They've lost it economically. They've lost it culturally. They've lost it medically. They've lost it scientifically. They have nothing. And yet, like the person in quicksand, they are struggling, swimming desperately to try to get out as they sink deeper in the fucking muck. And AOC is leading the charge. You gotta love it. Love to see it. Similarly, I posted on that, on Twitter, the captain, black captain. Look at me, I'm the captain now. Well, look at us. Look at the LP DNC. Look at us. We're the second party now. It's us and the Republicans. You're done. Now, I want to add one more thing in here. One more thing about the Teslas too. Just adding on to this. These people, these brainwashed lunatics. I mean, look, you find the most lunatics you're ever going to find are on the left. They're always on the left, always. And it's amazing. Babylon B had this, and I had made a joke similarly saying that, the Democrats are just one more burnt down Tesla dealership or one more violent attack on a Tesla owner or vandalized car from people really being on their side again. Who thinks this is a good idea? Just like assholes that are gluing themselves to roads and blocking freeways or throwing soup on paintings, this is not helping your cause. It's accelerating the hatred for you. It's making every normal person look at you and go, what is wrong with you? Especially when you see the effects of these attacks on normal people. People, right? Number one, it's not going to make me get rid of my Tesla. We have a Tesla. We're not getting rid of our Tesla. People I think, are in the mental state to fight at this point, right? And also, I made a little quip online. You think about this. The left now hates Teslas. They hate Elon Musk. They hate, getting ahead by merit. They hate having to, work and have an economy that's functioning. All these things they hate. And I'm like, okay, well, if we eventually have our civil war and split in half, right? Let's just say it's peaceful. So I want to live on the side that has civility, community, merit-based, meritocracy. I want Teslas. I want spaceships. they can have. I want healthy eating and healthy living. I want to work out. These leftists can have all this shit. I want biological differences between the sexes. The leftists can have their country where you've got no genders, you've got DEI Marxist, you've got, a collapsing infrastructure, you've got no economy, you've got people attacking each other on the streets, you've got no free speech. They can have it. They can have that country. It's all this shit they're fighting against is so psychotic. It's just fucking unbelievable. Oh shit. But anyway, yeah, these, you see the people that are, these stories that come out, it's like a woman in a wheelchair that some assholes, vandalized and messed up her Tesla that she needs to get around. You've got people drawing swastikas on a Jewish, man's car whose family were Holocaust survivors. These people are fucking lunatics, brainwashed, imbecile lunatics. And they somehow think that it's going to help their cause, that they're fighting against the man. You're not fighting the man. You're just fucking up individual people's lives. You have to be in a special mental state there. I don't know if it's stupidity or if it's legitimately like Trump derangement syndrome. And by the way, it was tragic, but funny that some Minnesota, I think, Republican congressman filed to make TDS an official thing, and then he got arrested because he was a pedo. These pedos. But unlike in a liberal United States, a progressive United States where this pedophile would be excused as a minor attracted person and probably get off with a slap on the wrist, I want to see this fucker put to death. Maybe that's too much. That's too much. I don't approve of the death penalty, guys. I don't want the state to have that power. But a nice long prison sentence in the wing where they do things to pedophiles would be fine with me. Okay. Last thing. I'm going to touch on this because it does tie in. So the former CEO of Ben & Jerry's, let me look at his name. Former CEO Ben & Jerry has been fired. Now, Hein Schumacher, that's him. So he was ousted, and many people, because there's a lawsuit that's filed now, are saying that he was forced out because Ben & Jerry's went ultra bullshit woke psycho. I shared on an episode, I think it was 3 or 4 episodes ago, the most cringe video I've ever seen a company put out where the CEO is sitting down and talking about their commitment to DEI and diversity and equity and policies that support all people and fighting against the patriarchy and yada yada. I mean, on, and trans rights and all the everything. Every checklist of stupid progressive leftist nonsense, they checked it off. They did this entire ridiculous video with him talking to the camera. They've gone out of their way on their social media to ostracize and attack anybody that doesn't agree with the most psychotic leftist philosophies. So he's kicked out. You know why? Because Ben & Jerry's is tanking. Predictably, because all of these companies that push this are tanking because Americans don't want to hear this crap anymore. How about you just stick to making fucking ice cream and shut up? How about that? So he gets ousted, which again is a fantastic sign of the times. And now he files a lawsuit saying that it was over the political or commitment to activism, right? So they're suing Unilever, who owns Ben & Jerry's, apparently. Ben & Jerry's, good job selling out to Unilever, Ben & Jerry's. You gotta love that, right? I love these crunchy hippie-run companies that are like, yeah, man, we're just sticking it to the... Oh, Unilever wants to buy us? Okay. Ka-ching! See you later. Everyone's a hypocrite. So... now they're saying that, yes, he was ousted and they're suing Unilever because of his political, activism for the company. What are you suing about? I don't get it. You work for a parent company. You've destroyed your brand. Get the fuck out. What's there to sue about? I mean, you as a CEO, you drove a company and lost their revenue, their stock shares plummeting, and their sales plummeting. Yeah, you get fired for that, man. Just like the chick you had, dildo, butt monkey, whatever, perform for kids. You should be fired as well. You're not allowed to sue over that. You did your job badly. You made poor choices. You are now fired. And you saying this is some sort of political witch hunt doesn't apply because it's not your freedom of speech, jagoff. When you're doing it from a company perspective, it's now the company's problem. So you get fired. I mean... these companies are quickly learning. The only one that's not getting it, and this is to showcase the difference between and why privatization of services, of basically everything, is the way to go, because companies wake up and go, we're getting killed. This is not working. The market response to this is going the opposite of what we thought. People are rejecting us. We are losing our money, losing our sales, losing our reputation. We need to correct this thing or we're going to be out of business. Government, not so much. The DNC, definitely not so much. Do you want the DNC in control of your government? An organization so inept they can't understand, they can't see that they themselves are drowning? They're hoisted on their own petard, as they say. I know I don't. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you for joining me. Again, we're going to have some big news, very big shoe coming up. We're going to be adding some shows to the Lions of Liberty, adding a person of note. You will know him. And to know him is to love him. To love him is to, I don't know. Yeah, whatever. I haven't made his eulogy yet. But yeah, big news coming, guys. So you can boggle in your brains who that might be, but we're going to be announcing that next week. All right, that's it. For me, Brian McWilliams, from the Lions of Liberty and from Mean Age Daydream. Keep those electric eyes on me, babe, and keep that ray gun to my head. Later.